Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Laura and I'm so happy to have you join me today. And if you're new here, please consider giving me the thumbs up as it really helps my channel, but also by subscribing, leaving me your comments, and making sure you turn on your notifications so you know when we have new content to share with you. And we have now listed many of our YouTube projects on our website, and I will leave the link to our website in the description below so that you can check that out later. All right, so let's get started as I show you how we make this beautiful beaded bracelet. So the materials we are using for today's project is a good old-fashioned knitting needle. Now I'm not a knitter, but this is a size 4, and I wouldn't want to go much smaller than this, and this we're going to use to make our jump rings. We have ourselves a ruler. This is a 24 gauge wire, and I've cut all of these to approximately 6 inches in length. We have a variety of lovely beads here. Some of these are stone, some of these are glass, and we do have a couple of different sizes. You go with whatever you like, but this particular video is geared towards these rectangular, or square would work even. But actually I think round probably would. I haven't tried it, so give it a whirl and then let me know if it actually works with a round one as well. So we have our snips, we got our barrel nose pliers, jewelry pliers, and then these ones just have that little bit of a hook on the end, which helps us to kind of get in there. So to get started, we just take, should move those the other direction so we have a clear line of sight. We just take our wire and we're popping it through the hole and finding ish the center. Doesn't have to be exact. 6 inches is actually an excess of wire for my beads in particular, and actually I forgot to measure these for you guys. They are 1 centimeter long, or we're looking at about a ½ an inch. Any longer than that, and then you're going to have to account for that in your length of wire. So we want to take this, we want to bend it, we want to make sure that it's pretty snug up against our bead on that one side, and that's just going to hold it in place for the moment. When we take the other side, taking our barrel nose pliers, and we just scooch that up nice and snug against the bead, but also go to the roundest part of our pliers. And then we're just going to give it a pull around just so that we've made that loop. And then holding our loop, we take that wire and we just fold it over just once. We're not actually wrapping it around our loop at this point. So then we pop it over, turn it over, and we're doing exactly the same thing to the other side. Now pulling it pretty tight. You want this to be fairly close up against your stone. A little bit of movement is fine, but ideally it's nice and snug. Okay, so we started to get that loop. We're going to pull this a little bit tighter. Make it just a little bit smaller, and we do want to maintain that circle or that loop. Okay, holding on to it, and take the wire and we pull it around so that it is facing the opposite direction as the first one that we did. So we strung our wire through the center, created our loops on either side, and now our wires stick out from either side, opposite directions of our bead. So holding on to it firmly, we want to take this and we want to run that wire nice and snug. See how it's pretty tight up against this corner here? That's exactly what we want. Okay, and I squished our little loop here. Okay, so we're coming around. Same thing, we want to try and bend it and keep it fairly snug against this corner as well. And now that we've got to this point, we're going to take that wire and we're just going to pull it around the back of our loop. Okay, so the wire comes up like this and then it goes around behind the loop. And I'm just going to play with it, see if I can move that into place a little bit more. So that's one side, so that's what we're going for. Now, exactly the same thing on the other side. So we take and we've bent that wire around the corner of our bead, following the contours, holding it fairly firmly, and there will be movement in this, it just will, they're all rounded corners. And then we just bring that behind. But we do want to try and keep the bead in place as much as possible. Okay, so now we're snipping back here. Didn't work so great. I really do need to invest in some decent jewelry pliers. Okay, so I've cut that off and then I just want to get in there and I want to press that flat. No pokey bits, run your fingers over the back of it. And then the same thing with this one. Give it a snip. Make sure those ends are nice and flat. We don't want this to snag on your clothing, your sweaters, and pull things apart. So there we are. There is our first link. I think it's really beautiful. It's actually quite elegant. So now we'll take one of the smaller ones, and these are super small, so obviously the 6 inches is going to be, the 6-inch wire is going to be too long, but we're going to go ahead and use it anyway. Popping that teeny tiny guy on there, once again finding the center. Bend our wires opposite directions. This one's a little trickier because it's smaller, of course. And then pulling that nice and tight. We take our round pliers, scooch it right up to the top, and then just give it a curl around our pliers. So that's what we end up with. And we hold on to it and we just bring that wire around the back and just let it point straight out. Okay. Same with this one. Now that we've done this part, we can straighten this out. Make sure it's pulled nice and snug. Pull our wire around. And once again, I'm using the widest part of my pliers. It's giving us another loop. And if you're not particular, you know, you can not worry about what part of the barrel nose pliers that you're actually wrapping around here. It gives a bit of variety, I suppose. But if you have a place marked, and you, as far as that goes, you could even take a Sharpie and just put a little nick on these to indicate where you're wrapping them. But they don't have to be this size. They can be any size, or what I was going for was they can be a variety of sizes. So it's entirely up to you. So we're holding on and we're pulling that wire back behind. So once again, our wires are pointing in opposite directions on either side of our bead. And this is just a titch more finicky because the bead is quite a bit smaller and flat on one side and kind of rounded on the other side. So we're just going to pull this nice and tight across our bead, like so. And we're going to take our wire. Oh, see, it slipped. So it's always good for you guys to see that. So I'm going to loosen it up just a little bit. It's good to see the variables, what can potentially happen, but it doesn't affect how beautiful these look, right? Okay, so then we're taking the second one. Same thing, we're running it along the edge of the bead. Right, you can see it there. And then we're wrapping it around that bail. Or link. I'm not really sure what we're calling that. Okay. We want to make sure our wires are on the same side. Snipping it nice and close. Flatten it out. Run our fingers over to make sure it's not snagging on anything. Do our second one. All right, awesome. So we have done all the links for our bracelet, and you could just keep going and going and going and make a necklace with this as well. So the next part we're going to do is we are going to make our jump rings. So we introduce our knitting needle, and you quite simply take your wire and you just wrap it around and around and around. Slipping it off there. And then we're just going to take our snips and we're just right where we ended off, right in this area. We're going to take our snips and we're just going to start to cut the coil into jump rings. And this is cool because it makes short work of this process. So if you have a lot of jump rings that you have to make, then this is definitely the way to go. If you make a lot of jewelry, you could just make a whole whack of these and just have them on hand so you're not having to make them with every project that you do. Alright, so we've got 2 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, another here, there, here, here, and then potentially for the end of this one as well. So we're just going to put those off to the side. And then we want to make our clasp. You could use just ready-made purchased ones as well. That's perfectly fine. But today we are going to make our own. So this is, once again, the 6-inch piece of wire. And we've just folded it in half. And I'm just squeezing it lightly with my fingers. You can get in there and you can flatten it out once you've gotten it to a certain point. I'm trying to be careful not to scar the wire. Okay, so there is our ends. Now we're just going to bend this over, bend it in half, like so. And we're going to do that again. One more time. This time we've gone in and we've just made the complete loop. Coming in with our cutters, we're just going to snip that off. And I'm just eyeballing this. If you wanted it to be more exact, then you could go in and measure it differently. Okay, so there's our clasp, and this will straighten out once we actually have it on our bracelet. Okay, very cool. So now we just start to attach our links together. So we're going to start in what I would deem to be the center of this. Alright, so I've gotten most of our beads on here. So what I need to do is I need to measure my wrist. Okay, alright, so you know what? That's plenty long enough, alright, for me to wear. So you'll definitely want to have a few extras, I think, just to be sure that you're going to have the length that you need. Alright, moving all this aside. So we already have our loop at the end of our bracelet, and so we could just leave that as is. However, if you want to add a couple of extras, which actually isn't a bad idea, you'll easily be able to adjust it. Or if you're giving it away, then there are those extra links just to be sure that it is going to fit pardon me, fit the person that you are giving it to. Just like some necklaces that you purchase, right? There's extra links on them for that purpose, so that they'll fit many different size of necks. Okay, so we just added a few of those. So we're just going to take our clasp, and quite simply, it's a little wonky, so we'll have to straighten that out. We are quite simply going to take that and just pop it on here, and then just close it up. And not everybody is the biggest fan of this type of a closure. It's super inexpensive, and if you can't get to the store and you're making something, then you can easily put one of those together. So there you go, guys. There is our beautiful little silver and square beaded bracelet. So I'd like to thank you so much for popping by and joining me as I made this really great little bracelet. I really appreciate it. And please don't forget to give me the thumbs up, as it really helps my channel. Give me a subscribe, comment, and click the bell so you get the notifications when we come up with these super fun projects. So for now, I'd like to thank you again, and I hope you have a fantastic day.